Hi, Mile Campers. My name is Cori Schulte, and I am a former Ohio state champion in the mile. And I received an email asking if I would be interested in coming on and doing a little interview for you about what it was like to be a state champion and just talk a little bit about the mile race and my career as a runner. And I thought that would be pretty fun to revisit some memories, considering it's been 23 years since I was the Ohio state champion in the mile. So I have a list of questions. I'm going to read them and answer the questions that I was given, and hopefully have a little fun with this. So again, my name is Cori Schulte. I won state in the mile in 1997, and at that time, my last name was Kill. So my name was Cori Kill back then. It's kind of funny, Kill, like Kill. Everybody used to joke about my name, and being a fast runner made for some good headlines in the newspaper. I went to Dublin Scioto High School, and it was only our second year being open as a school back then. So it was pretty exciting because I was also the first state champion in my high school's very short history. Let's see, some career highlights. I was state champion in 1997. I also had a state runner-up title in the mile. Additionally, I ran cross country, and back then, as most years are, we had a very thick group of talent in Ohio. And so I was really privileged to be running around some amazing distance runners, people who I was able to even create some friendships with, even though they didn't go to my school. So in cross country, I made the podium. I was 10th place in the state, but we had a really a ton of talent in cross country and in track back then. So it was really fun to be challenged and to have so many good runners around me. After high school, I went on to run at the University of South Florida in Tampa. I had gone on all my visits, and it just turned out that USF was the place for me. I'm super grateful to have gone there. They treated me really well, and I had a great 4 years of running as a USF bull. Back then we were Conference USA, so I enjoyed a couple privileges of being all conference in the 1500 and the 800, and also in cross country, we made it to NCAA's, which is the national championships, 3 times out of my 4 years as a collegiate athlete. So I have some really good memories from that too. So after college, I went on to coach at a couple different high schools during my time as a teacher. And most recently, I coached at Hilliard-Darby High School. When I became a school counselor about 4 years ago, I had to resign from coaching because it was just too much of a juggle trying to do my job commitments after school and get out to cross-country practice every day. So I do have some experience coaching as well. Coach Foley, who's actually still the coach at Dublin Scioto High School, he was my high school cross-country and track coach. And I'm super lucky because he is a quality, not quantity guy. He trained me based on what he knew I could handle. So I felt really, I really trusted him with, my talent and getting the most out of it without worrying about injury and things like that. So we did max. By the time I was a senior, I was running 40 miles a week, and we usually maxed out on a 10-mile run was my long run. And let's see, training wise, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. I know everybody trains differently, and their coaches all have different philosophies. And honestly, if you trust your coach, I think that's how you can trust that it's going to work for you if they're putting thought and effort into it to individualize your training. For me, I do have a favorite workout. My favorite workout that I ran in track was repeat 400s. And that was always towards the middle to the end of the season. We would start in maybe like 3/4 into the season, maybe a little bit sooner, but every time the paces would get faster. So depending on how fast the pace was would kind of change the amount of rest that it would be. But that was definitely my bread and butter workout. I love doing repeat 400s. I always felt like it got me ready for the end of the season. And then as we got really close to the state meet, I remember doing 300s and just real fast 300s with a good amount of rest. And so those were the types of workouts that really I felt like got me going. And they're my favorite workouts that I remember doing even to this day, literally 23 years later. So I think the mile is so fun to race. I love that you can break it up into 4 parts because it just seems like it's an easy race to do mentally. The first race or the first lap, you just kind of coast. You go out with the field. Sometimes you go out a little hard, but everyone kind of goes out in the front pack at the same pace. So you just kind of go out. It goes by really fast. You get to the second lap, you're maintaining. I really think that third lap, for me in my race strategy, that is the lap that makes all the difference in the race. When we were doing those repeat 400s in practice, my coach and I would do like 8 repeat 400s. And so we'd break it up into 4 parts. So the first 2, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. And when we got to 5 and 6, we would always say, this is where the workout begins. And I even had a t-shirt made going into the state meet my junior year. And on the back, it said, this is where the workout begins. Because that was kind of like our mantra when I did tough workouts. And it was that third section of the workouts that we would say, this is where the workout begins. This is the hardest part. This is the part that you really have to grind through mentally, because by the time you get to that last lap, it's going to be over. So it's a piece of cake. It's really not, but you mentally got through that third lap, and then you can see the finish line. So that's always kind of how I approach the mile, and worked out well for me most of the time. So clearly I have a state title. I have a state runner-up title, and that's something to be really proud of. And I was lucky enough that I had a lot of, I didn't get a lot of injuries in those first 3 years of high school. However, my senior year, kind of crazy, but I decided to join the swim team with my friends in the winter. I had already signed my scholarship for college, and I knew that I would be running for the next 4 years in college. I wanted to do something with my friends while I trained through the winter. So I decided to join a swim team. I have never been on a swim team before, and I found out really fast that I'm not a very good swimmer at all. So being a good runner doesn't necessarily mean you're a good swimmer. When swim season was over, I had been running a little bit, but hadn't been doing the workouts. So when swim season was over, I started obviously training my full amount, and my legs were burning, and I thought maybe I had shin splints, but I never really had shin splints that much. So, I'd run on the grass, they'd burn even more. I would walk up the stairs at school, I'd get to the top, and my legs would just be on fire. And so luckily my track coach was familiar with something called compartment syndrome. And so he thought I might have it. And so I went to OSU, to the sports medicine place, and they did a test on me, and it turns out I had compartment syndrome in not one, but both of my legs. So I basically went from having, all the hopes to earn my state title again my senior year to not having a senior year of track. I had to have surgery on both my legs in April, and I missed my entire senior year of track. So it's kind of crazy to think about it, because right now we're in this pandemic, and track's been canceled. And so all those seniors and whatever grade you're in, you don't get to have your track season. And it was unexpected and unplanned, and we just all have to kind of deal with it. And that's what happened to me when I was a senior in high school. So I get it. It's different. It's really different. No experience can be chalked up as the same, but I went through not having a senior year track season as well. And I had to watch the state meet from the bleachers, and, I helped me to learn how to overcome adversity. And luckily I was able to still go run in college and kept my scholarship and had successful college years beyond that. And I can still run now. So I'm very lucky that I'm still able to run, but it's really hard to lose your senior year and not get it back when you have a lot of goals that you were hoping to achieve. So I definitely can relate to those that have lost their spring track season this year. Well, I was ranked eighth place going into the state meet. So I don't know that anybody really knew me. I was a sophomore. I didn't make it to the state meet my freshman year, so I was a total like new face there. I'd progressively gotten better as the season went on. So I was going into it, I think, having run a 5:03 or a 5:04 mile, and I was ranked eighth. So my coach and I talked, and we said I was just going to go out with the lead pack and try to make the podium and see what happens. So, I went out with the lead pack, and I was still there at the third lap when I said it's time to grind. So the third lap, when it was time to grind, me and the other girl who was actually supposed to win the race, she was ranked to win the race, the favorite, I guess, we kind of pulled away from everyone else. So it was me and her, and then there was another girl that was really far in front of us. She had gone out super fast. So we started kind of closing in on her, and at about 300 meters to go, I made a move away from the favorite, and she didn't come with me. So now it was me trying to catch this other opponent who had gone out really fast. So then I kind of caught her around 200 meters. I made a move. She resisted. I tried again around 100 meters. She resisted. And then around 50 to 75 meters to go in the race, I made another move, and this time I got her. And so I crossed the finish line. I actually have this picture. I crossed the finish line. That's us, like right after. So she's very close to me. And this picture, the newspaper actually took, and then they gave it to my family. And so I crossed the finish line. I'm obviously elated and ecstatic, and you can see the look on both of our faces. And as soon as I took one more step, so if I put that foot down and then taken another step, I totally tripped. So luckily the newspaper didn't catch that image, or if they did, they didn't share it with me. But crossed the finish line, tripped, almost fell on my face, caught myself luckily. And then the rest is just, I remember it like it was yesterday, but it's also kind of a blur because I was so excited, sitting on that podium and hearing my name called in the horseshoe. By the way, that year was the second to last year that we competed in the Ohio State horseshoe, when there was a track there. So just, I know that now it's back at Ohio State, but a couple years after that, they had it, I believe, in Dayton, and the feel there, I don't think was the same as what it was like to compete at the horseshoe in Ohio State. So that was pretty exciting. So I actually have two children, and one is going to be in middle school next year. And we were very excited, and we're still eager and excited and hopeful that they'll have fall sports next year, so she gets to experience middle school cross country. She's been running with the Grasshoppers, and that's been an amazing experience for her. She actually just won the fifth and sixth grade state championship in cross country this fall. It's a 2-mile race, so I'm hopeful that she's going to have some success in running as well. But I guess on that note, though, my advice for her is just to really embrace the sport and the friendships that you create in running. She's not going to win every race, and I didn't win every single race. And, going to college, I definitely didn't win every single race. And so to think that, there can only be one winner, but everybody sets goals and everybody achieves goals. And even when I was a high school cross country coach, and track coach, I cheered for every one of my athletes when they reached their goals. And that's the most exciting part, is being able to overcome your own weaknesses and set goals for yourself and achieve them. And so I don't expect her to win every race. And the last thing I want her to do is put pressure on herself to do that. After winning a state title, I know what it's like to put pressure and feel pressure on myself. And while I do think that pressure made me a hard worker and be able to manage a lot of things at once, and just a lot of things that have translated into my working and family life, and being able to be a success at my job and to prove to people that I'm capable of doing tough things. I don't think that, the pressure it's not always a bad thing, but it's also something that I don't want her to have to feel negatively. So I guess my advice is to make sure that you have a well-rounded um, friendship, school, sports. Focusing just on one thing too much, it's not healthy. And also to just really relish and enjoy those friendships and those moments of achievement. And that really, if you do things right and you do the right thing, which is kind of something that I use with my kids, make good decisions and do things right. Doing things right is like when you're doing drills and you're doing A skips and B skips and C skips and all those things. Like I see a lot of times people just kind of going through the motions and just kind of kicking their leg up or half doing the lunges halfway and things like that. And that's not doing things right. So, I even tell, she probably hates me, but I even tell my own daughter, like, if you're going to do an A skip, do it right. And I tell my athletes the same thing. You're not getting out of it what you need to. It's becoming just nonsense. So doing things correctly, do things right, and then doing the right thing. So I did have to make sacrifices in high school. I had friends as we got older that would go to parties and go do things that I couldn't do. And I couldn't do them because I had a long run the next day. And there were just goals that I had that I couldn't go out and stay out late. And, I had to make good decisions. And so that's kind of doing the right thing. So that's my advice for my kids. And that's my advice for you. And I hope you crush this mile race in June. And I hope you all get to see a cross country season in the fall. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I want to thank you for allowing me to have some time to talk with you today.